Happy Sunday morning, beautiful people.
Happy
It
Sunday.
is so good to be here with all of you. It is so good to be connected. We are connected from Brooklyn to Memphis to Japan this morning. And
Yes.
so it's so wonderful to be here. Let us get started, as we always do, with a word of prayer.
Good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center. Let's get centered with a deep breath. We inhale and we exhale, letting go of any lingering thoughts, any lingering feelings. We are here now. And I am here and now knowing that there is only one mind, power, and presence that is all life and living. All time and space, all form and function. Mother, Father, God, I know you as the one and only creator, the perfect creator, the creator that is the love and light, the prosperity and abundance, the joy and peace and freedom and vitality that is life, the wholeness that is missing nothing, that is providing of everything, that is operating at all times, in all circumstances and in all people, as and through all people. Meaning I know that I am a divine creation of the one, an individualized expression of the one, perfect, whole, complete, nothing missing here, perfectly created to be yet another facet of this unconditional love, of this unlimited light. And as I know myself to be this, I know the same of my brother and my sister. Together, we are clear that life is divine, and it is this one divinity that we are a part of and that unites us to each other and all the goodness and godness of this life. To know this is to know that life is affirmative. It only acts in harmony with itself. It only acts from this place of wholeness where nothing is missing. And so we do good to remember and to affirm the same, to use our minds to be in alignment with the truth and the mind that is God, to see from this place of affirmation, to experience from this place of affirmation. And so gladly here and now, we give ourselves permission and we permit others, each other, to drop the fear, to drop the doubt, to drop the worry, to drop the limiting beliefs, to drop the condemnation, to drop the shame and the blame. We drop any idea that anything that is needed and required for the best life and living, any idea that it could be missing from anyone or any place or any circumstance. There is no exception to the truth that is true at all times in all places. And so with love and compassion, we look at those beliefs and we let them go. We let them dissolve away in that truth, and we create that space for God to come in, for health to come in, for vitality come in, for inspiration to come in, for the knowing and visioning and expectation of abundance and prosperity to come in, for justice to come in, for equality to come in, for respect to come in. For we know that these are natural, everyday occurrences. This is how life naturally operates, in love, in light, in respect, in justice, in a wholeness, in a health and a wellness that permeates everything and everybody. And we are very clear that the best way, the guaranteed way to experience that is to know that it's true, to let that knowing permeate us all the way in, knowing it not only in our mind, but in our hearts, to know it in our spirit, to know it with every sense that we have, to allow it to be true as it comes. And it is coming and it is here. And so in knowing that it is coming and knowing that it is here, we can celebrate. We can look forward to this morning and everything that comes of it, knowing that here together in this celebration spiritual community, this service, this day, the word, the song, the insight is going to be perfect, already harmonized to be exactly what each and every one of us needs it to be, to hold us in this alignment, to help us see it not only the way we know it, but in new ways, in expanded ways, to show us where our words and actions are to lie in this love and in this light, to remind us that it is all also natural for us And so it is this prayer, this knowing, this celebration, this affirmation that we release to this one mind, power, and presence that makes it so, that harmonizes it divinely, and that demonstrates it perfectly in no uncertain terms. We are clear that life is good, that life is whole, the life in us, the life in each other, and the life in all of our communities. It is perfect, whole, and complete. The love of God is operating unlimitedly, unconditionally. We let it be. And it is this that we celebrate with our word, with our action, with our song, with our creativity, with our engagement with this life. Thank you, Mother, Father God, for a truth that is so beautiful and so constant and so consistent. It is with so much joy, gratitude, sincere intention, and trust that we move forward with this day with faith and affirmation and the word of Amen, Ashe, and so it is.
Amen. Ashe, and so it is.
is.
Thank you, Nessa, for that prayer. So let's just move on forward, because we have some things we want to cover and share with you before we get into the meditation, the music, and the message. First, hello and welcome to all of our first-time guests. If this is your first time joining us here in this beautiful, powerful New Thought live stream with the Celebration Spiritual Center family, we would love to stay in touch with you. We would love to hear from you. And so you can text the word welcome to this number you see on your screen, 347-472-1078. Please just text just the word welcome, no signature, no emojis, and you'll get an automatic response back asking for your information, and then we will add you to our mailing list so that you can get all of the good information, some of which we're sharing today. But what's also beautiful is you can forward that to other people, and there's also clickable links in there, which I think can always be incredibly helpful. But we're happy to see you today.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really awesome to have you here. So let's get into some of the announcements and some of the good stuff that's happening here at CSC. Let's see. First things first, we've been talking about it each and every week, and we'll continue to talk about it each and every week. The census is happening. The deadline for the census, when they will stop taking information, is September 30th. So we're going to continue to remind you. I said week before last, for an example, New York City, only 54% had reported. As of last week, Mayor de Blasio says that 56% have reported. So again, it's still a very low number. And when you think about that wide gap between 56% and 100%, that will affect how many representatives are in Congress. That affects money for infrastructure and transportation. That affects money for firefighters. That reflects and impacts so many of the things that allow cities and allow our lives to flow in beautiful and powerful ways. So if you have not done the census yet, it's really easy to do the census. Just go to my2020census.gov, or you can use this phone number if that's helpful if you don't have access. But again, as I said last week, if you're watching us and we know you have internet access, we know that you have a device that you can use. It takes no more. I think it took 5 minutes to do it for the two of us, maybe about 10 minutes if you have a larger family, but 5 to 10 minutes is all it will take. And again, this has an impact. The census only happens every 10 years.
Absolutely.
Right? So what we do or don't do now, we will feel the effects of that until 2030.
Right. It's no different than any thought you think. Once the thought is planted, it begins to create from that point. So if there's a world that you envision, a way that you want this world to operate, then you participate in the process from a place of knowing. And then you fill out your census.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We don't ignore it because it's not the world I want. Right. We create the world we want. We participate in the processes that are in place, and we hold the vision.
Yes, yes. And if you've already completed the census, please share some of the information that we've shared, the videos you can find on social media, Facebook or Instagram. Encourage your friends and family. Check in with them, make sure that they've done it, because it is that important. It is that critical and necessary. Do you want some prayer? If so, If you have a prayer request, you can email us, prayerchampions@celebration.sc.org. And we, along with our prayer champions, will receive that prayer request. We will hold the truth. We will know the truth with you. As I've said in previous weeks, also, when your prayer is answered, you can email us then too.
We'd
And
love to hear you,
know,
friend.
let us know the good things that are happening in your life as a result of prayer. But we will hold that truth with you, hold the highest knowing, hold the highest watch with you and for you. Know that when you send that email, you're releasing it, you're letting it go, making yourself available for the powerful and affirmative word of truth. Yes, yes. Now, additionally, because we believe in prayer, we also have a weekly prayer call. It happens every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Momentum Prayer Call. What happens on that Wednesday morning, is that I share that day's reading from the Daily Word, and then one of our prayer champions leads us in prayer. You can use the phone number here that you see on your screen, lock it in, put it in your phone, screenshot it, do whatever you need to do so that you have it. Additionally, you'll see there's a playback number because you can call in and listen to the prayer at any time, 24/7, 365. We record the prayer every Wednesday, and so the most recent prayer is always available. Just call that number and wait. You don't have to enter a code. You don't have to do anything else. Just wait.
Absolutely, and that's your midweek pick-me-up, your espresso for the rest of the week, but you can use it anytime, 24/7.
Yes, yes.
Call as many times as you want to hear it, and remind yourself, align yourself with the truth.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Beautiful. So, one of the other beautiful things that's happening as we are in our series, The Sun Does Shine, which is inspired by the book, The Sun Does Shine, by Anthony Ray Hinton. Because there's so much to discuss related to the book, and of course through the sermons we're looking at spiritual aspects, but we also want to address some of the more practical things that are happening, looking at the criminal justice system, processing our feelings around what we're reading. And so we're going to be using book discussion questions that have been shared through Oprah's Book Club, as well as some other questions and insights that we want to bring in. And so we're doing an after the sermon book discussion next Sunday at 1 p.m. That's going to happen on Zoom. Right, it won't be through this format. In order to get that Zoom link and password, you need to join the group for the book series. And so how do you do that? Very simple. Just go to celebrationsc.churchcenter.com. When you go to that site, you'll see the options here: home, give, groups, and events. Click on groups, and then you will see in the next window, you will see the option to join the book series group, The Sun Does Shine. Just click that beautiful blue and green button that says join, enter your information, you'll be joined. The event is there. You will automatically get a notification or a reminder this week about it, and the Zoom link and all that information is there. So we're looking forward to many of you who, so many of you have joined the group, and we know that you're interested and you're ready to have those deeper discussions. I think it's going to be powerful. This will be the first of two that we're doing. So this is sort of the middle of the series, we're doing one, and then at the end of the series, we'll do one.
It's a beautiful opportunity to come together again, to witness each other, to hold space, and to really just share insights, have questions answered, discuss in a forum that's not our normal regular Sunday kind of forum. So it'll be great. And when you join the group, you're just joining that group.
Yep.
So please remember that.
Yep.
Information doesn't go beyond that. It's just a repository, a way for us to stay connected in that group and give you information that will be useful as we move through the series. There's great video content there. So please join that group and get access to those materials.
Yes, yeah, lots of wonderful resources that I think are very powerful and impactful. The last thing about the book itself is that we've broken up the chapters to make reading easy as we move throughout the series. So today's sermon will be based on our third week, chapters 9 through 12. And so next week, you want to read chapters 13 through 16. I'm seeing a typo. Oh, my goodness. But week four with an R, not foo, whatever that is. Chapters 13 through 16, okay? So that's what you want to make sure you're reading in this coming week as you're moving throughout your week to be prepared for next week's
Maybe that's
message.
just a little Southern drawl. Fold.
Chapter 4, week 4. All good. All good. So with that, it is time for us to move into the place of meditation, and PY will lead us so beautifully and powerfully as she always does in this moment.
Ah, we are in the joy of this present moment. We allow laughter to be the order of the day. Laughter becomes one of the tools by which Anthony Ray Hinton connects and helps to heal himself and others. And that laughter is generated from something deep within, and that is peace. And so we've been talking all this month about the peace of God that is shining in us. It's not dormant, it's not passive, it is vibrant, vibrating. It is on every breath that we breathe. And as we talk about meditation, I love to say, you can have read all of the spiritual texts that you want. You could have just dissected them all, book after book. You could have a whole library in your mind. But until you feel the concepts that we're talking about or that the text that you're reading talk about as alive within you, it's just information. And so meditation becomes a way to practice that aliveness, to feel that peace, and to be filled with that peace. The peace hasn't gone anywhere. It is always there, easily accessible on the breath. But we just practice because we sometimes forget. So let's do that now. Find a comfortable seat. Comfort is defined in whatever way feels good, that you can signal your body it's time to relax. Whether a comfortable seat is sitting up in a chair or on a sofa or sitting up in your bed, wherever you find yourself, just begin to settle into that moment. And maybe you take a quick look around you and remind yourself that you're safe in your home. Safe in this meditative process. And safely connected to this peace that we want to access. And once you've kind of canvassed the external world, reminding yourself that you are safe, let's go within now. Close your eyes. And simply by closing the eyes, we signal the body to respond to the mind that knows all is well. Simply by closing the eyes, we signal the body to allow peace to take over and to ride the waves of the breath. Simply by closing the eyes, we allow ease and effortlessness to guide our inward journey. And with our eyes closed, we just notice ourselves from the inside. Notice the breath, the thing that is both conscious and unconsciously working. Notice. And as you notice, hold it in gratitude that it is moving. Whether that breath is deep or shallow, it is still working on your behalf. And as we notice the beautiful cycle of breath, each inhale drawing more in, and each exhale relaxing the body and making room for more. One more round here of noticing. And now let's take some conscious control of the breath, which easily submits to our mind and our will to move it in our body. Bring your focus to the low belly now. And inhale, expand the low belly. Inhale, hold it there. Now open the mouth and release, relaxing the body. Again, inhale through the low belly. Hold it. And now surrender and release. Open the mouth and let it go. Continuing our path of breath and expanded awareness, inhale through the low belly, now up through the rib cage, expanding the front and the sides of the physical body and the back of the physical body. Hold it there. Open the mouth and release. Inhaling. Again, expanding up through the rib cage. Hold it there. And release. Now inhale all the way in and up through the heart, that healing center, that altar to love, to the divine. Expanding across the chest, hold it there. Open the mouth and release. Maybe beyond where you think there's air, there is more. And again, inhale all the way in and up through the heart, across the chest. Shoulder blades relax down the back. You feel an opening. New set point created. And release. Let's take a couple rounds of the fullest breath we've ever experienced. Inhale. All the way in and up. And hold. Open the mouth and release. One more time. Inhale. Filling up, holding, and releasing. And this time, full breath in and up. Filling up through the heart, activating that space. Hold it there. Now, on the exhale, close the lips. Exhale through the nose. Few rounds here of an elongated, full breath that signals the body and the mind peace is available. It's shining here now. A few rounds on your own. As we elongate the breath, we signal that joyful, open, easy, effortless place within us where peace resides. And now let's imagine that peace being felt within every cell of our body. Let's imagine that we send peace into our feet on the breath. Inhaling and feeling peace. Exhaling and relaxing the feet. Inhaling more peace and sending that peace into the ankles. Relax the ankles. More peace is to be found inhaling on this breath. Sending it into the calves and shins. Relax the calves and the shins. Our awareness has expanded We ride the breath, inhaling more peace and sending it into our thighs and our hips and our glutes. Relax the thighs. Relax the hips. Relax the glutes. There is nothing to carry the weight of what we held in our body. We surrender now. And as this energy and life force is summoned through an open lower half of our body, we move it forward. Imagining it at the base of the spine, energy rising, breath rising, inhaling up. Up and out the crown of our head. Gathered above us is peace, and like a magnet we draw it back down through our body. Across our third eye, opening our throat, accessing our heart, and sending that peace across our shoulders, nothing to hold, nothing to carry. Down our arms and out our fingertips. Imagine an open flow through every cell and fiber of your being. Feel the peace of God shining in you now. And as we prepare for our silent time, maybe the palms are turned up because you feel the need to receive more peace. Maybe the palms are turned down to ground and hold that which is already available. You decide how the peace of God is shining in you now. And as we move deeper into our being, flowing easily on peace and ease, shining with a light that cannot be extinguished. If the mind wanders during our silent time, it's okay. Bring it back to this thought. Without love, there can be no peace. We are filled with love, and we are filled with peace. I will monitor the time. You just enjoy the inner sensation, the inward journey, and the returning to the peace that you are now. With our eyes still closed, we notice the peace that is shining, filling every cell of our being now, reminding our bodies that it is home, home to a loving presence, home to truth, where only peace shines. We allow it to shine. With our eyes closed, we take the mental picture. We solidify this memory in our minds and in our cells. And if at any point this week we feel disconnected from the peace, we close our eyes and recapture this moment and remind ourselves in word and in breath, the peace of God is shining in me now. A few rounds of breath here, just beginning to bring yourself more back into the body. Maybe you rub the palms together, feeling the contact of skin on skin, feeling the energy that is created from just this simple movement. Maybe you wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe you place the palms on the tops of the thighs and lovingly wake the thighs. Now draw the shoulders up by the ears, nice and easy, no stress. And as the breath releases, we draw the shoulders nice and easy back down and bring the palms together. Bow the chin to the fingertips and pause. In this present moment, do you feel the breath flowing across the fingertips? On the inhale and the exhale. In the present moment, do you feel the peace of God? And as we bow to honor the time that we've given each other and ourselves by creating this vibration, there's a slight opening in the base of the spine and at the base of the neck where the energy can continue to flow easily. And now, slowly flutter the eyes open, nice and easy, soft gaze. Find a point to focus in, nice and softly. Inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
So before we get into the sermon for today, which I'm really excited about sharing some words and some insight with you, we are going to be ministered to in song by Soul 21. And I pray that this song finds you right where you are. So take a breath and take it in.
When my way seems dark, and I cannot see, I remember that you are guiding me. When I want to fear, to run and hide, I just look to the source of all life. I
give this to you.
I give this to you.
I give this to you.
I give this to you.
You know the answers.
You know the answer.
You know what to do.
You know what to do.
I give this to you.
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 You know the answers.
You know the answers.
You know what to do.
You know what to do.
When I get upset,
When I get upset,
when I'm feeling small,
when I'm feeling small,
when I forget
when I forget
that I'm safe and
that
strong,
I'm safe and strong,
oh God, lovingly,
loving me,
you always remind me
you remind me
that I don't have to hold this
that
anymore.
I don't have to hold this anymore.
So what do? I give this to you.
Give this to you.
I give this to the
I give this to you.
You know the answers.
You know the answer.
You know what to do.
You know what to do.
I give this to you. I give this to you.
I give this to you.
Oh God, you know the answers.
You know the answer.
You know what to do.
You know what to do.
Oh, worry, doubt, and fear.
Worry, doubt, and fear.
I give it up.
I give it up.
I give it up.
I give it up.
It was never mine.
It was never
I give this to you.
I give this to you.
You know the answer.
Know the answer.
Oh God, you know what to do.
I give this to you.
I give it all to you. You know the answer.
Know the answer.
So I give this thing to the mind, to the genius mind within me that already has figured it out.
Know the answer.
I let go of trying to figure it out and I release it. I let it go. I let it go.
You know the answer.
There's a greater thing in me. There's a greater power in me. I let go.
Know the answer.
Because I have to stop my business. I let it go. I let it go.
Oh, you know the answer.
Oh, yeah.
Know the answer.
You know what to do.
Know what
We let it go. Because there's a how that is always working that we can allow to work through us when we release it. When we release it. But we got to release the worry. We've got to release the doubt. We've got to release the fear. Why? Because it was never yours to begin with. But when we're in that space, we're acting like it belongs to us. But we're going to let it go. We're going to let it go. I want to sing that part again. Worry, doubt, and fear.
worry, doubt, and fear. I give it up. I give it up.
Worry, doubt, and fear.
Worry, doubt, and fear.
I
I give it up.
give it up.
That what's going to happen tomorrow right now. That what's going to happen at the end of the month right now. You have the opportunity to let it all. Let it all. You know what to do. So it is. So it is.
Ooh, Lord have mercy. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. That was so powerful. I was telling PY that actually wasn't the song that I initially was planning for this Sunday, but as we got closer to today, something said, "I give this to you" was the right song for this moment, for this day, for this message, for where we are, and I am grateful. Lord have mercy. Soul 21 was singing. There's a shift. I don't know if y'all feel it, but I feel it. There's a shift in the space right here and right now as we have tapped into that vibration of surrender, as we have tapped into that place of giving it up, realizing that it was never ours, worry, doubt, and fear. And we move into absolute freedom. Well, let's get into the message because we have a lot to cover, and I want to use all of my time wisely. So we started with week one, looking at the first section of the book. My title was Calling All Possibilians, and we were looking at the power of hope, faith, and love, right? And how hope is the precursor to faith. Hope is the breath of life. And so many times when we're just holding our breath, when we feel lost and we feel stuck, we don't have hope. But as soon as we breathe, all of a sudden there's hope and we're breathing possibility. And then we move then from hope into faith, which is absolute conviction. But we recognize, as the power of the text teaches us, that now abides hope, faith, and love. But the greatest of these is love, because we looked at the qualities of love, and we recognize that as we're moving through a situation, circumstance, or experience, it is love that is patient and kind. It is love that loves justice, that holds all things, bears all things, right? Love never fails. It never ends. It never exhausts itself. And so we move through that beautiful path. And that is one of the many things that we can glean from the life and example of Anthony Ray Hinton. Last week, Pastor Yolanda, with the sermon Bigger, took us to the hymnal of Beyonce. And she reminded us of something powerful as she was transparent and recognized, as many of us are experiencing, that as you read that next section, those chapters, and really as you move through the book, there's so much ugliness that happens. It pisses you off. You get angry. It can move you even into despair. And oh, Lord, how is this going to happen? And this great big criminal justice system is so awful and terrible. How can we ever shift or change it? But she brought her mind back to something powerful that is echoed in the song by Beyonce, Bigger. She reminded herself that she knows how the story ends. And in the context of Lion King, the gift, and Black is King that Beyonce has given us, the song Bigger begins at the beginning, because we are given all of the wisdom and knowledge that we need before we ever actually enter the earth or enter the situation. And so we come back to that, realizing that we are bigger than the circumstances, than the problem, even our minuscule concept of God and of self, of course. So we move forward this Sunday, and we're looking at, we read chapters 9 through 12, as I shared earlier. And what we learn is in graphic detail what it really means and what it really looks like to live on death row. It is incredibly disturbing, but brilliantly graphic in the way that Anthony Ray Hinton, or Ray as he likes to be called, takes us into this world that most of us will never enter, and gives us a clear picture of his experience and the experience of so many in that particular death row experience, but across the country. And I want to highlight a couple things, and particularly for those who may not have read these chapters, because it's ugly and it's dark. He talks about hunger, right? He says, I was alone all day with hunger so big, it felt like I was falling with nothing to grab onto. Like when you lean back in a chair and have that moment of panic where you've gone too far and you have to jerk yourself upright so you flail about trying to save yourself. I had that panic of failing all day, every day. I love that image because we all know what that feels like, particularly as it's summertime. If you've been outside in a picnic chair, and you know that you lean back and then you play around too much, right? And you get scared. You think you're going to fall and you jerk yourself back. That was the daily feeling that he lived in, and the other inmates lived in, from the place of hunger. And in this section, he's actually, when he shares with his mother and Lester, he's saying, oh, I'm fine, you know, I get plenty of food, right? He doesn't want to let them know how terrible it is, but that was the truth. Then he talked about even the dehumanizing way they had to take showers. He said there was no privacy in the shower, and there were always 2 guys showering at once and 2 guards watching. The water would be scalding hot or icy cold. It just depended on the day, or maybe what the guards felt like doing to entertain themselves. The guards watched us the whole time, even the female guards. There was no pleasure in a female seeing me naked. It was humiliating. We were like farm animals being hosed outside the barn. Again, disturbing graphic detail to understand what's going on. And then he takes us even further. He talks about the sounds of terror at night. Not only the sounds of the inmates who are going through so much torment and mental anguish, but even the sounds of rats and roaches. He writes, every night, I could hear the rats scratching and scurrying across the floors. The sounds at night were like being in the middle of a horror movie, creatures crawling around, men moaning or screaming or crying. Everyone cried at night. One person would stop and another would start. It was the only time you could cry anonymously. I blocked out the sound. I didn't care about anyone's tears or their screams. Sometimes there was laughter, maniacal laughter, and that was the most frightening. What it reminds me of, if you think about almost any character, any actor that has played the Joker up to the most recent portrayal with Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker has this maniacal laughter, this crazed laughter. But of course, we also recognize the most anguishing piece of being on death row is death itself. And he writes in that chapter titled The Death Squad, right? He writes about the experiences that he had. And there's this one moment here, he talks about there was death and ghosts everywhere. The row was haunted by the men who died in the electric chair. It was haunted by the men who chose to kill themselves rather than be killed. Their blood flowed in the cement cracks of the floors like a slow river until it dried and then split apart under the weight of the creatures that crept over it in the night. The roaches had blood on them, and they carried it from cell to cell. The rats nibbled at the dried blood and carried it back into the walls and the vents, where it blew around in the air like darkened dust and settled over us all. It was hard to hang yourself in death row, but easy to bash your head open against the cement wall over and over again until it splattered. The cell, red, and your pulpy flesh filled in the cracks and divots like spackle and hardened into a stain that would never come clean. He writes about the smell of death being so close to where inmates were killed that you were literally breathing in death. And so what we find in these chapters is that Anthony Ray Hinton is in a very dark place. We saw him moving into that in the previous chapters as he had decided he was letting go of God. He was abandoning God, and he wasn't opening up his Bible. And he goes on and he writes, I was done with God. God didn't live in this place. If there was God and he thought it was okay to send me to hell while I was still alive, well, then he wasn't my God. Not anymore, not ever again. He had also reached a depth of darkness that he writes, I had never felt such a darkness in me. I couldn't control my thoughts. Every hour of every day, I imagined how I would kill McGregor. My days and nights were spent watching and listening. Even at visiting hours, I was memorizing the routines of the guards. There had to be a way out, a moment where I could sneak over a fence, hide in the back of a car, take off running. It wasn't logical, and I didn't have a plan, but I watched and I waited because there had to be a way to escape. There just had to be. He says, I was becoming the monster the world thought I was. Because you see, in this place of darkness that he had entered, this place that he describes so vividly in a way that challenges us, he says, it makes you go to a place where there is no light and no hope and no dreams and no chance for redemption. This is the place that we find our dear brother Ray in. The same man that I talked about in week one that was able to operate in this powerful place of forgiveness and praying for his oppressors, that was able to operate in love and life and speak truth on that stand. This is where he was now. No light, no hope, no dreams, no chance for redemption. And so Anthony Ray Hinton was in the belly of the whale, or how I like to simply put it, way down in the hole. Now, I believe that collectively and individually, we are also way down in the hole. Consider what's happening in the world. Consider what's happening in our lives. Threats and fears around this upcoming election. We are way down in the hole. This pandemic in the United States is nowhere near under control. Many of us are grieving with very few ways that are familiar to us to actually heal and move through that grieving process. Healthcare workers have committed suicide in the midst of this pandemic. We're way down in the hole. Fear and uncertainty still looms as we're talking about our children going to school and teachers and educators and all that work within the education system. We have many who have recovered from COVID-19 that are experiencing what may be lifelong effects of having this illness. And then many, out of fear and out of loneliness, are making risky decisions, putting themselves in harm's way, knowingly and unknowingly. We're way down in the hole. In fact, even on this past Thursday, as Vice President Joe Biden accepted the nomination for president for the Democratic Party, he spoke to this very same thing. He used the word dark, darkness, and darkest 7 times, some version of those words, 7 times. He used those words as he spoke and opened up that prayer, opened up his speech, right, his acceptance speech, talking about the times that we're living in. He opened up that acceptance speech by using the words of Ella Baker. And he used the quote from Ella Baker, "Give people light and they will find a way." He used the word light 13 times in the speech. But there was a recognition that where we are in the United States and in many ways where we are in the entire world, we're way down in the hole. This place of uncertainty and doubt, this place of worry, this place of fear, it has a purpose. You see, everything has a purpose, even darkness. But if we do not understand this darkness, then we get stuck in that place that Ray talked about. When we don't understand what's going on, when we don't understand that it has a purpose, and then we allow ourselves to move through it, that's how we get stuck in the place of no light, no hope, no dreams, no chance for redemption. So this morning, we're going to talk about darkness, not to give it a platform, not to give darkness any power, but from understanding, because from understanding comes wisdom, and from wisdom comes freedom, and from freedom comes the freedom to live in the light, because that's where we're going. I love that quote from Ella Baker, "Give people light, and they will find a way." So let us understand. Let us understand the darkness. Let us understand that it has purpose so that we can find our way to the light. Now, last week, Pastor Yolanda introduced and talked a bit about the hero's journey as we learn it through Joseph Campbell. And I'm going to take us a little step further with that because this is important for us to understand where we are. She talked about that place where we found him in last week's piece was the refusal of the call. Now, what's interesting about the hero's journey, the hero's journey is broken up into 3 main sections. And within each section, we have sort of bullet points, right? And so the first piece or moment of the journey is the departure. And that's where we've been in these first sections. Everything has been about departure, leaving something. The third phase, larger phase, is initiation, and then finally return. But again, within each of those larger phases are different steps. And so everything that we've been reading up to this point is departure, refusal of the call. Then it takes us into supernatural aid, crossing the first threshold, and then the belly of the whale. Or again, as I like to say, way down in the hole. And so when we understand that everything that we've been reading thus far is departure, it makes sense. Think about it. Everything that was real and normal and true for Anthony Ray Hinton has all been taken away. Unwittingly, there was a departure from that. This is not about wanting to depart from that, right? In the same way that as we are in the midst of this pandemic, none of us wanted to depart from what life looked like in 2019. Right? Nobody said that we wanted to be in this experience, right? To depart what used to be our normal. But the interesting thing, and this is so incredibly important for us to understand, because we can understand it as we look at his life, but we must understand it as we're living our lives now, that what was normal is gone. We are departing. We are initiated, and when we return, everything is brand new. Everything is different, right? We do not want to return back to 2019 for so many different ways. But the other piece for us to understand is that the departure is really a descent. And so the hero's journey is really pictured like a circle where you start at the top, and as you move through the phases, you go down, right? And the bottom of that circle, right, 6 o'clock is the belly of the whale. It's the lowest point. It's the place where there seems there's no light, there's no hope, there's no dreams, there's no chance for redemption. And so why must we descend, right? Because that gets annoying sometimes. We've all gone through the hero's journey over and over again. Life is just a constant moving from one journey to another to another. But the spiritual wisdom is this: in order to spiritually ascend, we must first spiritually descend. This is the path of the sun. This is what the sun shows us. And this is why I love looking at that path, and as we move through the seasons, right? The sun, we're still in the summer, but in July, with the moving into Cancer, right? The sun is at its height. That's the height of summer, at the summer solstice, right? But then it starts to descend. It starts to fall. It's going to go down into the southern hemisphere, right? And we get to that place where here in the northern hemisphere, there's almost no light, right? And we have the experience of the winter solstice, right? Of that just incredible darkness, right? But we know the darkness does not last. Trouble don't last always, right? Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And so this is the journey. And this is where we're finding Anthony Ray Hinton right now in the winter of his life. And so I want to share with you a little bit about what Joseph Campbell writes about the belly of the whale. And then we'll tap in a little more into what that's about, what it means to be way down in the hole. And he says the whale represents the personification of all that is in the unconscious. In reading these things psychologically, water is the unconscious. The creature in the water would be the dynamism of the unconscious, which is dangerous and powerful and has to be controlled by consciousness. So what is he saying here? He's saying that as we read the story of Jonah, and of course, you know, Jonah, God wanted him to speak a word to the city of Nineveh, and Jonah was like, no. And so he ran away, got on a ship, crazy storm came, they threw him off the ship, and a whale, a big fish, it says, actually, we call it the whale, but big fish is what the text says, swallows him up, and he spends 3 days in the belly of this big fish. And what that represents is, inasmuch as he was not willing to do what the I am within him was calling him forth to do, to be what the I am within him was calling him forth to be, right? And he was fearful and he was scared and he didn't want to do it. Then he's thrown into this place of unconsciousness, right? And so what the belly of the whale, what that represents is the burning off, the getting rid of all of this unconscious, all of these things that are not like ourselves, right? And so he said, that's why he says it's dangerous and powerful and has to be controlled by consciousness, an absolute knowing. He goes on, he says, you see this thing up here, this consciousness he's talking when he says this up here, the brain, thinks it's running the shop. It's a secondary organ. It's a secondary organ of total human being, and it must not put itself in control. It must submit and serve the humanity of the body. Joseph Campbell goes on and he talks later about operating and living from the level of the heart. And what we must understand is that that's actually the truth, that the brain should actually be in service to the heart. And that's what he means when he's talking about the humanity of the body. But he goes on. When it does put itself in control, you get this Vader, talking about Darth Vader, the man who's gone over to the intellectual side or the dark side. He isn't thinking or living in terms of humanity. He's living in terms of a system. And this is the threat to our lives. We all face it. We all operate in a society in relation to a system. Now, is the system going to eat you up and relieve you of your humanity, or are you going to be able to use the system to human purposes? And so this is what we're finding. Again, if you look at Anthony Ray Hinton, this is what's happening. And this is what's so disgusting, particularly about the criminal justice system, because eventually, unless there is something that has been deposited in you, that strong faith and love and hope that Anthony Ray was able to tap into to bring him out, what happens is that then you become a part of the system. You get swallowed up by it. You get swallowed up by that unconscious experience of being in the water and being in the whale and being in the depths of darkness, and you never come out. And so you live in the no light. You live in the no hope. You live in the no chance of redemption. And that's where so many people are right now. That's why some folks still talking about not voting. Right? I get upset with those folks too, but if I understand it from this consciousness, I understand what's happening. I understand that so many of us have been living in the belly of the whale. So many of us have been on our personal experience of death row. So many of us have been in our personal experience of dehumanization. So many of us have been in our personal experience or collective experience or cultural experience or gender experience of being in this place of darkness that it feels like there's no hope. But we cannot live according to that system. You become Darth Vader, right? I preached a sermon, beware of the dark side. There's things that feel good about being in that way. There's things that appear good about being that way. But it only leads to danger and destruction. And so beautifully, as we move through these chapters 9 through 12, we begin to get a clue about coming out of the darkness. See, because there was something else going on even as Anthony Ray Hinton was in the depths of despair. I love this. God is so good. There was something going on even as he was in the belly of the beast called death row. There was something else going on even as he was way down in the hole. Because he writes this almost as an aside, as he's explaining all of this ugliness, as we're reading about how different brothers in the death row were killed, and he's talking about that story and hearing people crying out and the screaming and the smell of death and the rats and the blood. Even as he's talking about that, there was something else he included in there that was happening all the time. He writes these words: "All day long I heard the name Bryan Stevenson. But I didn't care about Bryan Stevenson. I had Perhacs and what he was doing for my case. Later on, when Bryan Stevenson takes on his case and a representative from EJI, Santha Sonnenberg, comes to see Anthony Ray Hinton, and he's confused. He's like, how did you find out about me? What's going on? And she says, Bryan Stevenson sent me. He knows about everyone. And what this reminded me of, it's like the still small voice. See, the opportunity to move out of this darkness, the opportunity to move out of despair was always there. Even in the midst of while he was there, somebody was saying, Bryan Stevenson, yeah, Bryan Stevenson's working on my case. You ought to call Bryan Stevenson. But he was like, I don't care about that. He was focusing on the no light, no hope, no chance of redemption. Meanwhile, life was whispering, Bryan Stevenson, Bryan Stevenson. Meanwhile, there was someone, God as Bryan Stevenson, in the case of this scenario, that knows about everyone. There was someone and something that cared about him, even when he didn't almost care about himself. Because at that point, see, he had gone through the appeals process, and his shady lawyer still couldn't, he still wasn't doing well, and his appeal was denied. And he said, well, we could take it to the Supreme Court, but you're going to have to pay me $15,000. Why don't you get your mother to mortgage your house? He knew good and well, darn well, that he didn't have that money. And he had reached a point where he told Lester, I'm done, it's over. I'm accepting my fate. But there was someone that knows about everyone. And this is a beautiful personification of what we understand about source. See, there's something that's infinite. There's something, as PY said last week, bigger, something within you that's bigger than this circumstance, bigger than this experience, bigger than this challenge, bigger than even the experience of death row. So it reminds us that even in the darkness, we are never alone. This is a chapter in the story. Again, this is why I laid out, what's the path? Departure, initiation, return. And life is always gently trying to pull us through each stage, through each moment, through each experience, because it's transitory. It's not here to stay. This is important for us to remember and realize as we are in the midst of this pandemic. One of the things that I've done, I've gone back to really look at and read about and understand what happened almost 100 years ago in the 1918 pandemic, right? It's interesting to see the similarities. We had a president at that time that denied what was really going on, right, until he got sick. We had a president at that time that was using even xenophobia, right? The reason why many of us think it's the Spanish flu is because of that U.S. president who was lying. That flu actually originated here in the United States and then was taken over into Europe by our troops, right? Because this was, we're moving into World War I, right? At that time, there was an anti-mask group that was created because people didn't want to wear masks, right? But what I understand, I can look back and I say, but it was transitory. There was a departure, there was initiation, and there was a return. And things in the world look different as a result of what took place during that time. It's not here to stay. I don't know when the end is. When running the marathon, I can't tell you what mile we're on. But I tell you what, it's 26.2 miles. It has an ending, right? That's what I know to be true. It even reminds me, it's interesting, I'm thinking about this idea of Bryan Stevenson. All the time people were talking about Bryan Stevenson, right? Now, I'm mindful this is not, an endorsement, but what it reminds me of, even with all of his flaws, one of the things, the case that the DNC made last week very well is that Joe Biden is the right person for this moment. And what's interesting to me, if we go back 12 months ago, people were like, Joe Biden. I'm like, why is people talking like Joe Biden? He's old. Why do we want him? We had him before. Hasn't he done his time? Make room for somebody new. He's not my candidate, right? You see the t-shirt I have on, right? And so, but what I recognize now, I truly believe that the case that was made is very strong, that he's the right person for this moment. I couldn't see that then. Didn't know what was going on, right? And so in the same way that Ray didn't want to hear about Bryan Stevenson, Joe is vowing to be an ally of the light. We trying to get up out of this hole, y'all. We trying to get up out of this darkness, out of this place of no light, no hope, no chance for redemption, and support us in leaving the light. And so the most powerful thing that Anthony Ray Hinton invites us to understand through these chapters as we're moving out of this hole, out of this darkness, and learning how to move out of this hole. It reminded me of this past April, I was asked to eulogize the brother-in-law of a coworker. And of course, here in New York, this is in the really, the height of the pandemic, and hundreds and eventually even thousands are dying. And one of the things that I kept hearing in my mind, considering what was going on and just how awful it was and how desperate so many people felt and so many of us felt. And I just kept hearing the words, make it make sense, right? But I heard it from a kind of a sarcastic, cynical voice, right? Okay, pastor, okay, preacher man, reach into your spiritual bag. Let me see what you can do with this. Because this makes no sense. When we think of all of the reasons, all of these people that did not have to die, right? That's clear, right? And all of the people, there are people that are walking around on the planet right now that unfortunately will transition due to COVID-19 that didn't have to, right? If things had been handled differently. I'm pissed off, right? Make it make sense, brother preacher man. Reach into your spiritual bag. And as I heard those words, and those were even some of the words in my own heart, right? That cynic, I heard it within me, but I turned those words on their head. I turned it into an opportunity. And what I recognized in that sermon and what I shared with those that were present with us in that Zoom funeral was that we have the opportunity to make it make sense by how we choose to respond and live from this day forward. We can make it make sense by honoring their legacy of how they lived on the earth and follow their example. This particular brother, he was incredibly loving, a powerful school teacher, and it impacted so many lives. And so he's a living, breathing example of how we can show up in the world. I make it make sense by putting love in action in the same way that he did. And so making it make sense is all about choice. How do you get out of the darkness? You got to know that you have the power of choice. Because there was a pivotal moment when Ray realized this. There was a man down there in the hole with him, and he writes about it in beautiful detail if you haven't read about it, that's crying and sobbing. And Ray is going back and forth with, why should I care about him, and why should I deal with him, and I don't want to hear him. And he tried to pace back and forth and do everything he could to ignore the sobs and the cries and the tears, but it was too much to bear. Ray couldn't ignore it. And it was at the moment of silence, the moment when that man had stopped crying, there was a moment of silence that led to a moment of awareness. And he wrote this: I was on death row, not by my own choice, but I had made the choice to spend the last 3 years thinking about killing McGregor and thinking about killing myself. Despair was a choice. Hatred was a choice. Anger was a choice. I still had choices, and that knowledge rocked me. Hear this today. Wherever you are in your darkness, wherever you are in the experience of darkness, wherever you are in your experience of despair, you still have a choice. You still have choices. Let that awareness rock you. I may not have had as many as Lester, his best friend, but I still had some choices. I could choose to give up or hang on. Hope was a choice. Faith was a choice. And more than anything else, love was a choice. Oh my goodness. Compassion was a choice. What happened here, this is the beginning of him coming back to himself. And we can't deal with it. It's in the last chapter, but at last chapter 12 of this section, because see, once he comes back to himself from this point, this is then how he then can move into operating and accessing his superpower of visualization and learning that he can go anywhere in his mind, knowing that his body was in prison. Oh my goodness, knowing that his body was in prison, but his mind could never be in prison. And that was the beginning of a powerful, powerful, powerful shift. See, we get stuck in the hole when we lose sight of this eternal truth that we still have choices. This is the secret key. This is the elixir of life. Choice. On March 15th, at the beginning of this pandemic, the first service, since we've been having services strictly remote and strictly online, Pastor Yolanda asked the question, who do you want to be? Who do I want to be when this is over? She was pointing us to that spiritual key of choice. And we have the opportunity to choose it. We have the opportunity to pick it out. We have the opportunity to analyze all of the possibilities and say that, or this, or a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and mix it up all together. I got choice, because we actually need to mix some things. Hope, faith, love, compassion. We need to bring it all together. Who do I want to be? Choice. Choice is how we get out of this hole. Choice is how we move forward. Choice is the path to light. And remember, there is no dark switch. Darkness has no origin, but darkness remains until what? We choose to switch on the light. With that, I invite everybody to take a deep breath in right here and now, and we exhale. We breathe in, and we breathe out. There is one mind, one power, one presence. Only one creative cause, only one divine intelligence that is working in all, through all, and as all. It permeates all life. It breathes through all life. It expresses through all life, and it is right here, right now. It is complete joy. It is complete love. It is complete freedom. It is complete ease. It is complete knowledge, and it is right here, right now. I remember and I recognize that this truth is always true, no matter who we are or where we may be in this cosmos or beyond, no matter what timeline we may be on. And as I recognize that this is true, I remember the profound truth of unification, that I am one with it and one of it. I remember this profound truth of unification, that you, my sister, my brother, are one with it and one of it, created in its likeness and image, good, worthy, holy, full of infinite possibility. And it is out of this awareness that I speak this word of faith. I am grateful and thankful for the path towards the light. I am grateful and thankful to remember that in truth we are never alone. And so right here and right now, we tune and attune ourselves to the sound of the still small voice that is whispering the words to us. Just as there was the conversation all around Anthony Ray Hinton, Brian Stevenson, Brian Stevenson, Brian Stevenson, Brian Stevenson. So that still small voice is whispering good truths to us right now. So that good voice is whispering direction to us right now. So that good voice is whispering good orderly direction to us right now. Just as that GPS that is God in us, through us, and as us is guiding us, we now tune and attune ourselves to the frequency, that frequency that says that we're not alone, that frequency that points us to the light, that frequency that's guiding us, that frequency that's seeking to pull us through the stages. We have departed the old. The old is gone. The old is gone. It is finished. We no longer want to live that, but we have released the unconscious shell of smallness. We have released the unconscious shell of limitation, and we are now being pulled forward. We are now being initiated, and we will return. We will come forth as pure gold. We will return coming forth worthy and knowing we're worthy. We return coming forth in this truth and knowing this truth and living this truth and embodying this truth. I am so grateful and thankful for the spiritual faculty of choice. And from this place of awareness, we choose to be expressions of love. We choose to be a beneficial presence on this earth. We choose to be the nation, to be the peoples that will bring forth healing, to be the peoples that will bring forth a changed world and a changed nation and changed hearts and changed minds. We choose to be a people that will live out the true meaning of justice. We choose to be the people that will bring forth the beloved community, a nation at peace with itself, a nation and a people at peace with itself. I am so grateful. I am so thankful that the darkness lasts not always, and the possibility to move out of the darkness is always available to us. I am grateful for this life, this soul, and this inspirational example, this holy man, Anthony Ray Hinton, whose life is showing us the path and the possibility. And so it is with joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer, knowing that it is met and received, and all is absolutely well. Together we say amen, ashe, and so it is. So it is. Oh, my Lord.
So it is, and so it is, and so it is. We use this power of choice. A Course in Miracles says, choose and choose again. So if you made faulty choices before, or choices that didn't serve you before, choose again.
Yes.
From this moment forward, from this message forward, choose again.
Yes.
Oh, we always have this power of choice. It never leaves us, though we leave it. Come back to it again and again and again and again. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Pastor Greg.
Yes, absolutely. And so in this moment, I'm filled up. In this moment, we're going to prepare for giving. And giving is really simple here at CSE, not giving in the sense of the mechanics,
Yes.
but giving in the sense of the consciousness. It's very simple. Give what feels good, because it is out of joy that you reap joy.
Yes.
It is out of an awareness of all sufficiency that you experience all sufficiency. Out of an awareness that there is more than enough, that you experience there is more than enough. And so that's what giving, what feels good is all about. So we invite you to think about that number, whatever that amount is, and give it with joy and with gladness. Give it without any worry, without any hesitation. Because we know that when we give from that place, then we operate in the true power of this cycle of the law of circulation. And so it is very easy to give. You see the information here on your screen. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, and give what feels good. You can also text to give. The minimum amount to text to give is $10. That's because of the transaction fees, but it's 347-744-9500. We as an organization, of course, we appreciate all of your
Yes.
giving. As we shared last week, we always, as an organization, we tithe to other organizations, and we're looking to do something with the Equal Justice Initiative as we are in this particular series, and understanding and knowing how necessary this is. And you know, we partner and do so many different things. So know that as an organization, and I think this is important, as a spiritual community, we operate in the same path, giving what feels good, knowing that circulation. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's one of the reasons that CSC continues to experience abundance in every way, in all ways, right? Abundance in just all facets of all that we are being and doing. And of course, we as pastors give because we recognize that we want to operate in that flow along with everybody else. Right? So with that, please give when you can. Give at any point in time this week or give today. We love and appreciate y'all.
Yes.
Please don't forget to, you can go back, and I think actually the link is in the post on Facebook and on YouTube. You can join the book series club because we are going to, book series group, it's not a club, because we're going to use some book club questions to really talk more about the book and really delve into, again, processing our feelings and talking more about the criminal justice system and some of the things that we can do now and ways that we can be a beneficial presence and be supportive, because a change is coming.
Absolutely.
Right, a change is coming, and I'm so grateful to be alive in this moment, and to be conscious in this moment. Right, so often the conversations are about, you know, what other folks did in history or what we would have done and how we would have showed up and would we have gone to the lunch counters and done sit-ins or freedom rides. We can speculate. That's wonderful, and we like to think we would all be on the right side of history. But here we are now with the opportunity to be on the right side of history.
Absolutely.
And so it's very exciting.
Yeah, and so in that group, we get an opportunity to talk about it. But then we get the opportunity to put it in practice. So not just talk about it, but be about it.
Yes, yes.
And so we look forward to that conversation. Definitely join the group. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to share and come up with, allow new ideas and new choices to be made.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. So as we give what feels good, we affirm what is absolutely true. All the money that I use,
all the money that I use
returns to me multiplied.
Returns to me multiplied.
In a never-ending cycle.
A never-ending cycle.
Of increase.
Of increase.
And enjoyment.
And enjoyment.
And so we give and we receive. It keeps coming back to us. We love you all. We appreciate you all. Have an amazing Sunday.
Have an amazing Sunday.
And an even better week.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.